My name is Malik Daniel.
Hi, my name is Keenan Smith.
My name is Miguel. Welcome to Power Story.
Season 3.
A podcast from Ray Graham Training Center High School in Chicago.
This season, our thing is stand up for what you believe. Social justice change make a difference.
The Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence is the oldest and largest statewide organization in the U.S. working to prevent the devastation caused by firearms.
And thank you for your lovely day and have a safe one.
We have a couple students in the class that have questions.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I want to know, what's the standard weapon most criminals use?
Oh, you know what? In violence we see in Chicago, I still think handguns are the standard. What type of handgun, I couldn't tell you.
Right.
But handguns are the base. You know, you see most gun crimes in the city are handguns. You don't see anybody running around with shotguns, you know. That's not too common. I don't know if you guys use social media like Twitter. I follow CPD on Twitter, and when they do like big busts, they'll post a picture of everything they get. And like sometimes, man, you see these guns, and I'm like, oh, you know, they're like, we confiscated a pound of cocaine and 3 AK-47s. I'm like, of course they had 3 AK-47s to protect a pound of cocaine, but why did they have 3 AK-47s? You know,
right.
I've seen gold-plated AK-47s confiscated in this city. Gold-plated guns, like that's crazy.
Right. I wanted to ask a question. You know, when you said a lot of violence happened because of poverty and, not a lot of education. But I know most of that is pretty true.
Yeah.
And most of it is younger teenagers see social media, or most, I want to say, rappers. I won't blame the rappers since it's all a stunt, but obviously, it's mostly social media.
Oh, yeah.
Is the issue.
Oh, it's huge.
People post it and say, I'm out here posted on the block with a bunch of guns and stuff. Yeah. And younger generation want to copy that and be a part of that.
Oh, yeah. You're absolutely right. Social media has definitely plays a part in that. And I also talk about the idea of how, I hate to say we have a violent culture.
Right.
But we have a violent culture, right? You can't have a big budget movie without explosions and guns, right? Nobody wants to watch a movie without people getting shot at or getting shot. That's a problem though, right?
Yeah.
If that's all you like to see, guess what? You got a problem.
Right.
But we don't ever talk about that. But social media definitely plays a part in it. And I always say, I work a lot with kids, and a lot of the rappers who talking about guns. Perfect example, I don't want to name the radio station, but there was a radio station I wake up to every morning. Half of what's coming out the box to me doesn't sound like music, so it's like and I'm like, oh my god, I shut it off. But I woke up one morning and this guy was like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 shooters ready to gun you down or something like that. You guys know what song I'm talking about, right?
21 Savage.
Yeah, and I can't think of the exact lyric is, but he's talking about shooters ready to gun you down, and I literally woke up like, what oh my god, what? And I was just like, that's kids listen to this radio station.
Right.
That's what we're pushing out, right? And he's not a good rapper. 21 Savage is no good. I can name 5 or 6 rappers who are way better than him, but they don't talk about guns. They talk about real stuff, but they don't talk about guns. They're not talking about shooting people, and that's not what sells. So part of it is, let's be real. I stopped listening to WGCI 7 years ago. I stopped listening to 92.3 5 years ago because they were playing music. I'm just like, I have twin daughters. I don't want them listening to this, I don't have a problem with them listening to music that's a little hood, right? No Name is one, Vic Mensa, right? He talks about guns, but still using a different context. That's one thing. And we kind of have to hold those people accountable too. Why are you selling this cat who's no good anyway, and all he does is talk about money and guns, when there are 5 rappers from Chicago, way better, they get no airtime? What sense does that make? And WGCI should have to answer to that, So social media has a big part to play, but here's the thing. You guys pay all those bills, don't you?
Yeah.
You buy 21 Savage. You buy all those, designer. I want to meet that guy one day.
That's a conversation I never want.
He can't wrap himself out of a paper bag. And then when you buy it, you play it, and your younger brothers and sisters and young kids hear it, and they're hearing, the stunting and the guns, and it just turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I get what you're saying. You're saying refilling their heads with it.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think that's a huge thing.
You're right. You know, it's mostly the rappers and the people who want to listen to that. But I kind of, to me, everybody's at fault. You know, everybody's a new generation's at fault wanting to listen to this type of nonsense. You know, this is what it came down to be. You know, people want to listen to music with drugs and violence and crime. You know, it just became something different to me.
But, you know, I just attribute that to that's what they're offered.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what they kind of just roll with. So we kind of have to, on one end, kind of ask for more. You know, what else can you give me? And there are rappers who are amazing that you guys probably never heard of. One of my favorites is Mr. Liff. If you guys, LIF, if you never heard of Mr. Liff, he is amazing, but he's never on the radio. Never. But I have like 3 of his albums. I listen to him on Spotify all the time, you know, so you kind of have to, sometimes we have to ask for more.
You ever heard of this rapper named Montana 300?
Oh, absolutely.
Montana, sometimes he do be talking about guns and stuff like that, but in one of his songs, like, he just been like talking about the truth and stuff like that, cause he got him a little son named Tony, but I'm following him on Instagram and stuff like that. So like on what you were saying about these other rappers in our generation is like so I'm jacked up, cause music is not like how it used to be, like when y'all was growing up and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it plays a part into it for sure. You know, it's not the only part, but you know, if all you're hearing all day is, you know, I'm shooting, I'm making money, I'm shooting, I'm selling drugs, I'm sipping syrup, I'm making money. After a time, you're like, well, maybe I should try to sip some syrup. And, you know, once you start sipping the syrup, you're going to start shooting because it's only a matter of time, right? Because your brain's going to start to disintegrate. But, you know, all that stuff, youth culture. And I'll give you a perfect example. In youth culture, as a man, if a guy confronts you, you have to, you know, in today's culture, you have to, right, stand your ground, right? And I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'll tell you, walking away from a fight is hard to do. But that's the smarter move, right? It's the better move, it's the smarter move. But you don't ever hear that. You know, who tells you that? And I've had guys way tougher than me, MMA fighters, say the same thing, like, walking away from a fight is hard, my man, but you do it. You do it because it's a smart move. That's what I'm gonna listen to, you know, but you guys don't hear that stuff. So it's, you know, it kind of plays into the culture, you know, all the things that you do hear.
Are you fan of Tupac?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, question though, like, if Tupac's alive, will he change the hip hop generation to this day, if he's still alive?
You know, that's a good question. I hear that a lot. That question a lot in different contexts. If you had Tupac and, you know, think about
Biggie.
And Biggie, yeah. Think about all the things that Tupac rapped about.
It's real stuff though. He talking about.
But it was a wide range.
Been through a lot.
Yeah. But a wide range, and he was super talented, right? He wrote. I don't know if you guys ever read the book. Was it a Rose Grows Out the Concrete? I think.
Yeah, I did.
His book of poetry. He wrote about tons of different things. I think if he was still alive, there would be a different standard for the music. I would really believe, and that would help, because the music today, unfortunately, reinforces a lot of the negative stuff we see, in my opinion, and we don't have anything counter to that you hear a lot, you know. Chance the Rapper is probably the best example.
Yeah.
He's a counterculture to what you see, the dominant stuff. But who else?
And we talk about violence here. Society is crazy right now with social media.
Yes.
It's very crazy. In your generation, you didn't have to deal with that.
Not at all.
In our generation, well,
yeah.
Killing, more killing, suicide. That's police just shooting.
Yes.
Random people for no reason at all. Wow, no explanation. You see on the news a lot. So, society today, I like the old, without the internet. I like it back then instead of now. I'd rather be there instead of here. Yeah. I'm just saying, if the younger society wasn't like negative all the time, if they learned to the old generation and see how they experience, maybe it'd be better. I don't know. It's a hard question to ask.
I don't know. I kind of get what you're saying, yeah. You hit it like 100%, and I tell my students this all the time. When I was your age, I used to use a program called AOL. right? America Online. And the closest thing to social media we had was chat rooms. Like, you didn't have anything like that on your phone. You had to be at home on a desktop, and you could talk to people from other places. That was the closest thing to what we have now, social media. But you guys, that's part of that pressure we were talking about. For example, if you were getting bullied, if you were getting bullied back in my day, and bullying happened in my day, you went home and it was over. I didn't really talk to people on the phone. When I saw my friends at the end of the school day, if they lived next door to me or, down on my block, I saw them, at night. If you didn't live near me, I didn't see you. If I had a bully, I didn't see him, until school. Now, bullying is a 24/7 thing. If you're getting bullied at school, you're getting bullied on Facebook, and you're getting bullied on Twitter and Instagram. And it's one of those things I tell students, don't be afraid to unplug sometimes. Like, how many of you actually do that? Like, you'll go a day without social media, or you'll go a day where you turn your whole phone off, like, completely. I do it all the time. Like, sometimes you just have to, right? I need personal time. And you guys got to kind of get into that groove, because you deal with all of those things, and that pressure to be liked, and to deal with all the conflicts that you deal with. And it can become just too much.
Stressful.
It's so stressful. And it's stressful for me as an adult. I deal with some of the same things too. I have arguments with people online, and you get so angry. And sometimes you just got to be like, you know what? I'm done. Especially with my job, the NRA will seek me out online a lot. So I deal with a lot of debating online, a lot of arguments online. And you always want to get that last comment. You always want to get that last word. And sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. And I'll just set my phone will be like, bzz, 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 I'm done. And you kind of have to learn that self-regulation, what works for you. And it's tough, especially as young people, because you guys are go, 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 especially if you start to get that part of your brain that the anger is being triggered too. You're go, 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 go. And it's tough. And that's also why violence happens, right? Because we haven't learned, once that anger is firing in our brains, we haven't learned to just hit the brake and stop. Which is, where things like meditation come into. When I meditate, I'm a much more peaceful person. I know it. I knew it in the Army. I meditated when I was in Afghanistan. I'm a much more grounded and peaceful person. And when you're grounded and more peaceful, it helps. So when this brain is doing this and you start to get that face like, oh, I'm gonna knock this cat out. You just gotta stop, think about it, breathe, let it out, Something to think about.
Yeah, it's tough to really back down from a fight. You're not trying to be scared or nothing. It's like, dude, if you're trying to live for another day, just walk away. Just walk away. Please don't start nothing here.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you want to live. I know I want to live.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to start anything here. So just walk away.
And that's something different in your generation than I think. But in my generation, guys would get into fights. Someone got a fat lip, maybe a black eye, maybe, and you walked away. That was it. And today, a fight can end up in a shooting so quickly. And I've actually seen, as a teacher, I saw that. I saw, you'd have a student get into an altercation with someone, and then the next day the police are there because there's, this person threatened to kill him. And I'm like, what do you mean? What did you do? He's like, man, we got into an argument at the park. He pushed me. I pushed him back. We got into it. Now his brother saying he gonna kill me. I'm like, you would kill you? Like, literally kill you? Like, yeah, the police are here because they're taking reports and they're trying to save this kid's life now. And I'm like, this is new to me. This is wild. Part of it is that as a group of young men, especially as, young black men in Chicago, you kind of have to work together to breed this mentality that you're not gonna get drugged down by the streets. Because I always tell my students, the real reality is this. There are people not sitting in this classroom right now. There are guys standing out in corners, and when they see you, they get jealous, right? That kid's trying to make something of his life. He's trying to be successful. He's trying to get an education. He's trying to get a job. And those cats will do something to pull you off your track. So you kind of have to, as a mentality, kind of establish yourselves where you're not going to let people pull you off your track. But you have to work together. Me and my friends, we're kind of in that mindset, because there are people who even try to pull me as an adult off my track. And my friends are always there to remind me, like, it ain't worth it, cat. You go to jail. So you're going to lose your job. You're going to lose everything. And I'm like, you're right. It's not worth it.
All right. When it comes to gun violence in Chicago, why is more like on the news is more reported of black on black crime?
here in Chicago, unfortunately, if we're talking about rich and poor, stereotypically, but it actually tends to kind of be accurate, right? Think of like what a very wealthy person living in Chicago looks like, and then tell me where they live. You're probably gonna picture someone white living on the north side, more than likely, right? Mm-hmm. And then if I tell you to think of somebody poor and where that person lives, what neighborhood are you gonna pick? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna pick mostly a south side neighborhood, and more than likely you're gonna picture a black person. That's how Chicago was built that way. If you guys don't know the history of the city, Chicago was built with the black people kind of sectioned off from everybody, and they were, not given a lot of things in their communities. As that community got bigger, they kind of sectioned them off more, still didn't give them much. And this kind of went up even until the 80s. When Harold Washington became mayor of Chicago, he was the first black mayor of Chicago. He was dealing with a lot of communities on the south side need more stuff. And the rest of the city council was like, no, they don't. And you're not going to make us give them, Right. And that was actually called the council wars, right? He was trying to get services to the south side of the city in a lot of situations, and they refused to make it happen. No, they don't need anything. There was a point where south side communities weren't even getting their garbage picked up. I don't know if you guys know that. Look that up. Harold Washington was like, this is so wrong, But that's kind of how the history of our city has been, and now we're trying to change that. It has evolved. It definitely has changed, but it needs to change more. And so, unfortunately, when you are looking at gun violence, it's happening in communities that are mostly poor. And because of that, they tend to be mostly brown and black, right? And the media has tons of problems right now. I don't think any of it is being fake news, but they go for sexy news. And, some kid from this neighborhood or, a neighborhood south of here getting into Northwestern is not a sexy story, right? But two people getting shot, that's what sells. That's what makes people watch. So it's, highly reported. And unfortunately, a lot of times it is, minorities in the city. Not exclusively, but,
Now these days, cops be shooting students. We wear like ghetto stuff or black stuff. They just shoot like nothing.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you guys aren't super familiar with the history of Chicago and the CPD, definitely learn some of that history, because it's interesting, because you kind of have to understand, how do we get to where we are now? You look at communities on the south side, they just don't trust the police. And you kind of have to understand why. Why don't they trust the police? And for me, as a young person moving in my 20s and 30s, the story of John Burge was kind of like why we don't trust police. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that story. John Burge was a police commander. He was implicated, him and his men were literally picking up black and brown, Latino and black men, picking them up often for crimes they didn't do. And they're like, so you robbed an old lady, or, you killed somebody. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they would torture the person until the person confessed. And then the person would confess and they throw him in prison. He went to jail for lying about doing this, but he didn't go to jail for doing it. And that created a lot of mistrust, because if you can torture 100 people and not go to jail for it, what else can you do? And so here in Chicago, that's kind of like a shadow, I feel like, that just hangs over the city. And I don't think the city has ever 100%, I don't even know how you apologize for that, but they've never 100% apologized for that. And that's a big problem. So you have these communities where this stuff was happening. Why would you trust the police? What sense would that make? When things are changing and the world is becoming more transparent, you have these situations like Laquan McDonald, kid even with a knife. If you shoot him one time, that should suffice. You shoot him twice, okay, 3, 4, 5, you get up to 16. Shooting someone 16 times, you had no purpose of arresting him. You had every intent of just simply killing him. And that's not acceptable, because that's not your job as a police officer. Your job is to arrest, right? Let the judge figure out what his sentence is, but you just went and sentenced him to death right there on the spot, and that's unacceptable. And I think we're seeing it now more just because cameras are more readily available, social media is more readily available. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I heard stories of Chicago police doing weird stuff to people, but now you can prove it. Now you can get it on camera, and now I can hear about it from the person, and so that changes things. And so I think that's why it seems like it's happening more. I don't know if it's happening more. I don't think it is. I just think we hear about it more.
There's a video that I was watching, and I don't know where was it. So there were like 2 cops. So the guy said he was not doing nothing, so he was running. And so after that, these 2 police the other cop, he took the gun out and just shoot him. And there were two guys who was driving and took a video and recorded the whole thing.
Yeah. And there's been a couple of, I mean, you say that situation, and I can picture 3 or 4 different situations I've seen on the news, and I don't know which one it is, right? So it's more than one for sure. And it's so tough. I remember being a kid, my dad telling me how to react to police, and I still do it to this day. And I'm an adult. I have a license. I have insurance on my car. I've never been arrested. I've never been in handcuffs. I'm a completely law-abiding citizen. But when I see those lights in my rearview mirror, I start sweating. I'm like, oh God, right? Like, oh God. And my father used to tell me, even when I started learning to drive, he said, when the cops stop you, roll down your windows, which I do. I still do to this day. I roll down my windows. I put my palms on the top of the wheel with my fingers open, and I wait till the cop comes. And when the cop goes, how you doing, sir? And I'm like, hey, do you know why I stopped you? No. You ran, a stop sign, you were speeding, whatever the case may be. Okay, could you got a driver's license? And I still, to this day, I still do it. Yes, sir, my driver's license in my back pocket of my wallet. Can I grab it? Sure, okay. Grab it, I take it out, right? I do this all visible. And as an adult who is a law-abiding citizen, I shouldn't be so nervous and feel like these are the things I have to do to make sure there's no altercation. But guess what? This is America, right? That's what I tell people. I tell young people like yourselves, what should be is not what is. We want to move towards what should be. I should be able to react to police like everyone else and, whatever. But, always yes, sir, no, sir. My father always told me that. And I have never had a altercation with police. One time I got stopped by police because they said I looked like someone who was reportedly peeping through windows one time. This was actually in the suburbs. 3 police cars pulled up, and when they pulled up, I literally got down on the ground. And they were like, what are you doing? I was like, it's 3 of y'all, it's 3 cars. I'm getting on the, what are you doing? I could literally and they were like, get up. And I got up, and I actually had on my Army PT uniform, which if you ever see Army PT uniforms, they kind of glow in the dark. They shine lights on them, they glow. And so the guy was like, we had a report of somebody peeping through windows. And I looked down like, really? And he goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm running, because I was out running, He goes, you got ID on you? I pulled out my military ID, I gave it to him, and he was like, oh, maybe there was a mistake. I'm like, I don't know what it was, but, he goes, and he said, why'd you get out on the ground? I said, because there's 3 of y'all, 3 cars full of police. That'll look good. So I got out on the ground, but unfortunately, that's how we feel we have to react here in America. And unfortunately, if you don't react that way, we sometimes see what happens. It's not right. It needs to be fixed. But, I'll tell a judge what should have happened later rather than somebody tell my mom what did happen and she won't ever talk to me again. So it's sad, but it's real. That's reality.
Yeah. I have a question about the police as well. Mm-hmm. This happened to me like 2 years ago. All right. I'm getting off the train, and then I hear gunshots. I run because that's your first instinct to do is to run.
Absolutely.
I look like, what? I'm running because I'm trying to run, and I'm right across the street from my house. As soon as I almost made it there, here come the police. Get on the ground. I kept my hands up. I ain't making any sudden move.
Yeah.
No, they kept me in the car about 30 minutes asking me different questions like, why were you running? I like, if you hear gunshots, are you gonna run towards it or away from it? And then my mom came out asking me, what happened? Then they slammed you on the ground. I said they just put me on the ground gently, like they ain't slam me hard or anything like that. And then she got in an argument with the officer, telling him, if it was your son, don't you think he would run too? And the officer was like, there's no need to catch an attitude over this.
When we're dealing with police, we're dealing with high emotion situations. And I have a lot of friends who are police officers, actually, and they're good people. I guess it's the problem anything. A couple bad apples, as they say, spoil the bunch. We've all heard that phrase. A small percentage of bad police officers have kind of ruined the game. I can just say ruined the game, because, I have friends who are police officers. I have friends who are sheriffs. I have friends who work in corrections, and I even asked them, I'm like, do the stuff you hear about dirty police officers, does that stuff happen? And they say, yeah. And I'm like, well, how? They say, well, it's hard to get rid of them. The system is built that it's just hard to get rid of those guys who, if you know a guy is doing the wrong thing, it's hard to get rid of them. And so there is your statement. That is the problem. It should not be hard to get rid of bad police officers. We as citizens know this. officers know this, but guess what? It is. So there's really what the problem is, but in that situation, I've always been dealt with professionally by police officers. I can say that. Like I said, I've never had an altercation, but then my behavior is very much like I'm avoiding everything at all costs, right? And it shouldn't be like that, but.
Like, I honestly feel like they should be under surveillance without knowing.
Yeah. Well, we're moving towards the cameras. I think there will be one day where police will have cameras that work like they won't even be able to turn them on and off. They'll just work, just like they'll be somewhere on their uniform, and it's the minute they put on a jacket or something, it'll turn on and it'll never turn off, because that's kind of what our society is moving towards, right? You go around the city, you see cameras everywhere, right? Everywhere you go, you can barely be in the city of Chicago and not have a camera on you somewhere, whether you like that or not. That's where our society is heading, and I think one day that's where police will be, where no matter what they do, it'll be on camera. And we're starting to move towards that now with the body cameras. And the technology will get better, and hopefully relationships will improve, training will improve. I'm a huge advocate. I'll say this to anybody who put a microphone in front of my face. Chicago police should do jiu-jitsu as part of their job, because if they did jiu-jitsu, they would have a way to take down guys 5 and 6 times bigger than them without using a gun. Right? You bring me the biggest guy in this classroom, give me 3 minutes, he'll be on the ground because of jiu-jitsu, right? That's the way it is. And I don't mean that, I don't say that to me I'm a tough guy, it's because I'm trained well. And I train with guys, some 2-3 times bigger than me, and I'm not a little guy, but I can take them down too. So if you're not trained, I'm really gonna take you down, So if Chicago police had that would be something they could use a lot more readily than a billy club or a gun. I think part of it is they don't have any options. They see a guy who's big, guy who looks dangerous, and they got no option. They're not about to box with the guy. They're not, because they're gonna get knocked out and then get the gun taken away from them, so they shoot him. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's a part of the problem with their training. And I'll tell everybody I can, that needs to be fixed. They take jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or wrestling, something where they can control guys, take them down, and then arrest them without taking their life.
Is there anything else you like to share with us today?
We all have a part to play to decrease gun violence. If you guys watch the news right now, people your age, young people from 14 to 24 are they're just slowly changing the world. It's amazing. It's the first time in my life people have said we want kids to be in charge. It's almost like a weird, bizarro world, but I love it, and you guys have a part to play in it, especially as young, in this room, mostly young black and brown men, especially in Chicago. Now's the time when you guys really need to let your voices be heard on these issues, and be ready to roll up your sleeves and do hard, because it is not easy work. It's hard work, but if we can change our city and make it a better place, that's amazing, and I feel like now is the time, because you see everywhere else changing. You see everything in the news changing. Also vote, and yeah, we got to work together. So work together, that's it.
Thank you for being here on the show with us.
Oh, thank you guys so much. This was awesome. I had a great time. I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you.
That's a wrap. Power Your Story podcast is produced by students at Ray Grant Training Center High School in Chicago.
With production support from After School Matters and the creative Impostor Studios.
Today's episode is produced by
Miguel Morales,
Keenan Smith. You can find our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Radio, Google Play Music, and the web at poweryourstorypodcast.com.
We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Power Your Story Podcast.
Follow us, subscribe, leave a review or comment, and share our show with a friend.
Thank you for listening, Power Your Story Podcast, and have a wonderful day.